Hello everyone, today we're finishing finally what we started back in the end of 2024, which is the client and server speaking to each other in C using WinSock. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to, we've created a C file and we're going to first start off by coding the client. So the first thing we need to do is define Unicode if it's not already defined. Next thing we need to do is define Windows lean and mean, just so we don't have the entire Windows API in our executable. And now we can start including our libraries. So the first library we're going to include is standard.io.h, one of the few Unix libraries that Microsoft had to include as default. Next we're going to include WinSock2, and then we're going to include ws2 TCP IP.h, and finally we're going to include the Windows API. Final thing before we start writing executable code is we need to tell the linker what library file we need to link to. And the library file is ws232.lib. Now we can start writing actual functional code. First up, we're going to create a WSA data variable, just calling it data. It's only going to be used to start up WSA. Now we're going to do the version requested. And that's going to be version 2.2. And we're going to reference data. Now we're going to create our client socket. The first type is the family, which is AFINet. The type is socket stream, and the protocol is TCP. So we do IP proto TCP. Next we do an if statement to check if this didn't fail. If it did, we're going to print that error. And then we're also going to print an error code, which will be helpful later. And then to get that error code, we need to do WSA get last error. Next, in this, we need to close the socket for client, just in case it has got to the point of being opened. And then we need to do WSA cleanup. We'll execute all this as well at the end if everything is successful. And then we're going to return 1 for exit failure. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to create an address. First one will be sin family, which is going to be AFINet. Next will be the port, which we're just going to leave page 8 is 880. Now we need to create an address. So the first thing we're going to do is use the function from ws2 TCP IP, which is init python. So the first parameter is AFINet again. You could also do address.synFamily. Next thing is our IP string, which is 127.0.0.1, which is our just local host IP. So anyone on the same network can connect to it. If you were creating it for a mainstream system, you'll have to put the real IP address in. And then we need to reference address.synaddress. Now we're going to need to connect to the server. First parameter is our client socket. Second parameter is the address structure. If you're doing it in C++, you do not need struct. You can just do these typecast straight away like this. But like as I am in C, you will have to put struct before your casting type, before casting struct. And then we just reference address. And then we're going to do size of, and that's going to be, sorry, my mind went blank. That's going to be size of address. And we're just going to copy basically this code and just change a few variables. I couldn't be bothered spending about 30 seconds writing it out. And then I'll also add in close socket server. That should do it. Now we're going to send and receive data, so we're going to define what we're sending and what we're receiving. So the first thing we're going to be sending is our send buffer, which is equal to hi server. Next thing we're going to send is our next thing we're going to define is our receive buffer for where the data is going to be stored, and we're going to do a size of 1024 bytes or 1 kilobyte data. Now we're going to get around to actually performing the actions. So it's going to be integer receive. We're actually going to be sending first. Then equals send. Our socket will be our client. The first, and then the next one is going to be our buffer. And then it's going to be int strlen. And the flags are going to be the buffer. And then it's going to be 0. I'm going to have a switch statement. You can also do it as an if statement if you want. Probably more recommended, but I prefer doing switch statements because they're faster. Not in C++ though, they're just the same, but okay, I'm going to check for socket error. If this takes place, we're going to do the same as this, and both yield the same result. Next thing is going to be doing receive. So we're going to receive the data, and then it's going to be from our client socket. It's going to be receive buff, and then it's going to be size of 0 to, no, not that, size of receive buff. That's Duolingo giving me a fright. And we're going to have 0. Slack as well. this is done, we're going to be printing what we've got, and that's going to be receive buff. Then we're going to, well, we're actually just going to copy these and change it up a little bit. I like to add a little bit of spacing just to have a bit of clarity what's happening, and we're going to return 0 instead. Now I'm also going to build the solution. And it is built, and it's built. Now we're going to work on our server. And actually, most of this code is actually fully compatible with this. But first we're going to change a few variable names. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to bind. That's going to be server, and it's literally just remember the same as, it's almost the same as connecting, but on the server side instead. And then it's going to be size of ADDR. And yeah, I'm just going to copy this. I am really having a lazy day. I just noticed there's an error in that code. Why is that? Looks like it's done. Just save that again. I'll just build that client solution again. And we don't have a client, so I'll just delete that. Get out of the switch statement. Now we're going to listen. I wouldn't really put any checks on this, you can't really. Going to be server, and then the backlog is the queue connections. It's about 10 connections, 10 queuing connections. The next one we're going to have is where we accept the connection, which is where we have the client socket. And it's going to be equal to accept, and it's just going to be server, and then the rest of the parameters you can just keep null for now. And then we're just going to copy this because it's literally the same. Except we do change a few things. I'm just a little bit rushed on time today, so that's why it seems like I am cutting costs, but it really shouldn't really affect. And plus, you get a faster video. You don't have to listen to me mutter on. Yep. Now what we're going to do is we are going to define at the same time. So we're going to do const char star send buff equals hello client. We're a bit more professional because, well, we are the big server rather than the individual, like all of us who would probably, like, if you think about it, this is like a big company, and we as individuals will probably use more informal language, while the big companies will use formal language. Unless you're like some of these like modern tech startups by like teenagers or something. And then we can probably just copy all this as well. In fact, we pretty much can. Actually, I'll just write from scratch so you get more details. So we're actually be sending first. No, we're going to be receiving first. So that's going to be receive. First socket is going to be our client. So if you remember in, actually I haven't told you this yet. When you receive and send, I believe that everything revolves around the client rather than the server. Next thing is going to be size. No, it's actually going to be int sterlen, and then it's going to be receive buff. That's not what I actually want to put. I just remembered because there's literally nothing in it. And we're just going to -1. And then we don't need any flags. And I can just copy this. Last thing is going to be our send. So that's going to be int sends equaling sends client sends buff int sterlen is going to be equal to sends buff, and then the final thing is going to be 0. And I'm just going to copy, I'm basically going to paste that again. Hit send, and I'm actually going to Control-C that, and before I paste that again, I'm going to print f what was actually received. Again, receive of course, my fashion. I'd love to separate things out, and boom. And that should probably build. That built successfully. Now let's run it. And run this. And boom, there you go. You have hello client and hi server. So that's me done. I hope this helped. If you wanted to do, like, let's say chat client, you can just add like inputs with scanf functions and just repeat this process over and over again. Break it up into maybe like a library or something like that, and then just break up the send and receive when that happens. If you want me to make a client and server kind of like chat application, just say in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the future.